Happy Friday! You're here again with us for neurodiversity tea time. Amanda, you've got me, Theo, and the incredible Lucy Hobbs. Lucy, welcome!
Woo! Thanks for having me. No, I'd rather be here today, but this is like, usually I'd rather be riding my horse, but this is a special occasion, so I'm happy. But actually, I couldn't catch my horse yesterday, so I couldn't ride him anyway, so it can be a bit of a bugger. So.
Well, there's a good. As we're going to get onto the topic of dopamine hits and some of the fun, special interest we've had. You've given a good intro there in one of the things, and I've been fascinated recently about equine therapy as well. When we had Health and Wellbeing Week, so that was a whole new world. And my daughter loves horses, so we can get onto all of that in a minute. But Lucy, tell people who you are. Give me a little brief intro.
Oh, I didn't really prepare an intro. I just prepared my thing. Well, I am. Who am I? My God, that's a good question. Today, or like generally. So I founded the Futures ND about 5 years ago. I had the 5-year thing, it came up on Facebook. I didn't even remember. And that made me realise, well, that's quite a long time now. That's since I started the Futures ND. And since that, before that, I worked in advertising as an advertising creative, an art director and copywriter for about 20, 30 years as freelance. I've always sort of freelance because I wasn't very good at getting full-time jobs or keeping them. So I don't think they thought I was employable material at the time. So, but now I realise why. There could have been there's reasons for that. So I got diagnosed with ADHD 15 years ago, and at the time I would never say anything at work, speak up at work about it, and because I was freelance as well, I was scared that I wouldn't get booked, and I know that I might have had a bit of a reputation for being quite challenging, but I ask a lot of questions, and and I actually thought now I realise that I need to work for myself. There's no other way. Oh, but being freelance was probably the best thing I could have done actually in my career. Anyway, I founded the Futures ND because I was invited to speak at a conference because I went to this neurodiversity breakfast, and they were designing conferences back in 2018. And it was the year before that, 2017. So I spoke at this conference about having ADHD and how it affected me at the Diverse Minds conference, which is a conference for the advertising industry. They've had 2 of them, and then after that there was no one else really talking about it. It was there was no groups or anything like that. So I thought now I've talked about this, there's no going back. I can't hide it now. Just go for it. So, and I also that wasn't a space there that I really needed myself, and I thought that. I met other people that I could see needed that as well at the conference. I felt like I met my people, my tribe, people that were like me, that were outwardly understanding what was going on. I mean, I know lots of neurodivergent people as well from my past that were neurodivergent but never got diagnosed. And I can see now what was going on, So, so I created the Futures ND, and I told everyone at the conference that's what I was going to do, because it was a 2-day, And and then I got lots of offers of agencies offering me their space and speakers offering to come and speak about their experience. So I just started organising events, and then later on I just sort of did an event 3 or 4 times a year, and then started to get into themes like ND leaders, workplace of the future, and comedy night. I do doing 3 events a year really now, maybe another one.
I love the comedy night that I came to, by the way. That was great fun.
But it's really hard to get sponsorship stuff. It's hard work because it's non-profit, and I don't, there's no money in doing events. I do it because I think it needs to be done, and I enjoy it, and other people really enjoy it as well, So
you're getting some love in the comments. So Emily Fellingham there going, Lucy.
God, I'm rambling on, but I did want to finish about my intro because it's quite long. Because then I've done that. I started doing events, and then agencies came to me and said, "Could you come and do a talk at our agency, or can you come if you've got a workshop?" And I recorded this content with someone at the beginning of interviewing people, and I had all this stuff anyway. So I put this workshop together. So I've been to agencies to teach about neurodiversity, And then from that, I got asked to consult on things like people's DEI policy at Grey Advertising, and I've worked with quite a few different agencies. And Universal Music, I helped them with their Creative Differences handbook, so I helped them to find people to interview. So it's all lived experience in that handbook, and sort of advised on the layout, accessibility, and that kind of stuff, and also the language within that. So that was a really nice piece that I worked on. And then so now I'm using my
lots of things.
I just wanted to say that now I'm getting asked to do creative projects through my neurodiversity channel. So I did some copywriting for AXA, which was the first ever healthcare provider to do assessments for neurodivergence, you know. So that was really good. So I wrote work guides and blogs and stuff like that with my kind of knowledge of neurodiversity and my copywriting skills. So I want to do more stuff like that, and I want to do more branding, advertising for neurodivergent businesses, and that's sort of more what I want to do. But I like the 3 streams of work. So I do event organisations, ND consultancy, and creative consultancy. So they're my kind of 3 things, and that keeps it interesting as well, you know, because if I was an advocate all the time and talked about neurodiversity, I would get really depressed because it's too much sometimes, isn't it? It's just like,
overwhelming.
Dopamine, you know, things like what we're going to talk about today, like horse riding is something I returned to, that I was really into as a kid. It was definitely my special interest. It just kept me sane as a child and kept me busy. So I've returned to that. But I don't know if anyone else wants to talk now, because I've been talking. I'll just keep talking. Tell me to stop.
I just wanted to, going back to you saying about horse riding and things you did as a child to keep busy. It was a topic we just started before we went live. Is how often do you try to or need to keep busy and until the point of exhaustion? So it's something, you know, it's something I hear quite often, and I think both Thea and I we were just saying that often we're going like busy brain, keep busy, exhausted, knackered, right? Then pick up and go again, and we seek that dopamine hit. What's your experience of that, Lucy, and what do you tend to do?
You know what? I've been thinking about this. I think there's 2 types of dopamine, or it's different kind of amounts of it you get. So you get those hits that are massive highs. Like for me, when I worked in advertising, coming up with ideas gave me the massive high. You know, that being creative gives you a big high. But then, you know, horse riding is very calming. And it's sort of regulating, and you ride the horse and you stroke the horse, and it's kind of very somatic, the whole experience. And it's also a thing, you know, that's alive and has a personality. It's a real relationship as well. So that's a different type of dopamine. And it's like gardening, something that I used to think was really boring as a kid. I thought, why really? And now I'm really into gardening. I really enjoy it. And it's that kind of flow. You get into that flow, kind of calming dopamine, rather than the one that makes you.
But I don't think there's different sorts of dopamine, but how dopamine responds in the brain might be different because there's going to be different receptors. In the sense of what your behaviour drives, our behaviours drive sometimes that need for and that's often the problem with ADHD, is that emotional regulation, which sometimes we're like, and we need that hit, and other times actually we need that balancing. But sometimes what I hear is lots of people do, and I do it, keep going, flat out till you're knackered. What do you do to, we were just talking about that.
Now, actually, but I do that much less, but there are some times when I get very burnt out, but it's not, but I have been doing loads of physical stuff. Yeah, actually, it's funny you should say that, because when I got back from my holiday for a week, I was like really ready to go, and I came home and I spent like 2 days in the garden, 9 hours for 2 days, and like literally the next day, I couldn't move.
No.
And I slept like, you know when they sleep like a log, I was so heavy those nights that I slept really well. I thought this is really good, but then I was just exhausted, and I was literally, not good at, you know, like
it's the needing to buzz up or too much and going over the other side. Yeah, what do you do when we were just talking about busy brains and what you tend to do, because I do the same.
So as a young person, I did things that you shouldn't do. I got into a lot of trouble. I took a lot of drugs. I went to a lot of clubs. I was out every night. I was friends with everybody because it meant I could be out with everybody. So I had too many relationships, too many friendships, and so that was chaos, and that didn't work. I mean, I couldn't work. I couldn't make money. I didn't have the money to spend. I was trying to spend all the money. It was like chaos, right? Now I have much better things, like gardening is one, which I don't have time for anymore because of everything else. But that is when I do. Things like painting. Like if I need to decorate, I'm really good with putting the radio on and decorating. Things like, I know this sounds strange, but things like not doing it could be doing the dishes, dishwash, however you do it, but it's that process when I've got a job. I'm going to listen to the radio. I'm going to learn, but I need to keep busy with my hands to do something at the same time. So so rather than, but I still do glass of wine to come down, and I love being on a stage, but I don't like the preamble before and a bit. I like my friend. Like my old friend from when I was younger, High Contrast, he talked about like, he wanted to stay for like 50,000 people, but he can't go into a supermarket with people, right?
No, I understand that completely.
Got a job, you're going to perform, boom. But the problem is you do too many of those, which is what you're talking about. If I do 4 or 5 performances in a day, I'm done. But I enjoyed it in the moment. I'm like, my adrenaline's high. But it's that coming back and needing something to then, because you go into this space where you're so exhausted you don't know what to do with yourself. As a child, you might start to have a meltdown. As an adult, I'm just like almost shaking with energy because and then I can't, which I was saying to you, Amanda, I can't switch off. I can't just go to bed.
I can't either. Yeah,
and I need to trick myself to relax. And either I use a drug, I use alcohol, and that'll just slow me down.
Slows you down. Yep.
Or I need to find something else, like Lucy might ride a horse, and then that transitions from intense to slow. I need to find that thing, and it's still hard because I've got my daughter then who's got a lot of needs at night time that I'm then having to transition to help her slow down. And that's a weird thing when you're on the edge and you've got somebody else on the edge and you're responsible for bringing them down. So whole weird, I've still not got my head around that.
So it's interesting, isn't it? Because I find that busy brain can't switch off. I have to either watch absolute rubbish. I do the alcohol thing. Glass of wine is my drug to slow me. But I will often watch some rubbish on television, real stuff that's absolute garbage. But it'll mean that I'll phase out because I don't have to concentrate. Or in the middle of the night, I listen to Jane Austen, and it sends me back to sleep. I can't remember any of it in the morning, and I've gone through about 10 chapters, but I've drifted back off to sleep. And I think that busy brain energy bit is a bit that drives us, that exhausts us. It's that sort of dichotomy. And I think the bit with gardening is it's mindless. I don't think a lot of people who've got ADHD are very good at mindful activities. I can't do looking at a candle. It's too boring. So we have to do something as well at the same time, right? So you've got to be listening to a podcast while doing the gardening.
For me, I'm a bit different from that. Can I just put a point? Because I think some other people like this. I do it when I'm doing gardening. I'm processing stuff. Because I take a long time to process stuff like emotions, and that's my autistic bit. It takes me, like, if it's a maths thing or something, I process it really quickly and I come up with an answer really quickly. But if it's emotional, it takes me a long time to sort of process it, which is Alexa, or whatever it's called. And I found that when I'm gardening, because I thought, should I listen to the radio when I'm gardening? I'm like, no, I need nothing, so that I can sort of it just kind of processes, and I just let it process, and it has to, because if it doesn't, I'm all over the place, I think.
So that's
I've realised that in my later years, and also I had like an emotional regulation coach that really helped me to understand, to know, because I didn't understand myself at all really before that, and just to know that it's okay to sort of give yourself some time off and to rest.
Absolutely.
I usually have a nap in the day. I have time always for a nap, and then sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. But I always have that hour or even 2 when I don't do anything. And I even say to myself, I might not do any work this afternoon, so I do a lot in the morning. But then sometimes if I'm feeling like it, I'll do some work, and then I don't feel pressured into doing it. And I sometimes do more work that way because I'm not putting pressure on myself to do stuff. Because I think that's the thing that I find, because I think as someone who tries like twice as hard as everyone else growing up to sort of hold it together and to do the, to be like, get through the day or what have you, or be an adult. It's a lot of work.
So this.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, so there's comments coming in. Will just saying, building Lego sets. So again, that it's, Lego's a known one for people to be able to focus their mind on something. The processing of information, I actually do the same as you, Lucy, but I'm dipping in and out of so the stuff I'm listening to is like Radio 4. Some of it, but sometimes it's the third time I've heard the same news stories. So I'm actually driving or doing the dishes, listening, but the what I hear is triggering ideas in my head that allow me to process and go off. So it's almost like several different things happening all at once. So my mind's going between all of the different things.
I find exactly the same. I find exactly the same thing. If I'm going for a walk in the morning, often that's a time when I'll be processing stuff that's going on, like you're saying, and something will pop up and pop out of my head. Emily's saying, I find watching ridiculous telenovelas like Dynasty help me switch off. I agree with you. I'm with you, Emily. I'm with you. Something awful is what I'm watching. I have a very low bar, I have to tell you. But it's funny because you do get those ideas, but when you're relaxing and allowing you, then sometimes those ideas pop up and out, So I think you're right, Lucy. It's time and space to process, isn't it?
Really? But I do also, when I'm feeling active, my brain's active, I'll multitask and I'll do a few different things. I have to get, I've got a few things open and then I sort of go from one to the other and do that sort of thing as well, But I definitely have my ideas when I'm walking the dog. Things sort of come when I'm out walking, and not horse riding. No, weirdly, I don't think about anything apart from horse riding, which is nice because it's just nice to not think of anything at all, And I'm lucky to have that. And I think I can find, there's different brain states, isn't there? There's like 3, I think, there that we
have. And Praveen's saying definitely need podcasts and music while doing mundane tasks. It's that thing of not being in. I mean, Will said meditation helps him. For some people, I'm not saying it's not right, because for some people, good practice, but you have to get into that good practice to be able to get in a state for long enough. And I think, it's finding, like you say, what works for you. Some people would hate horse riding, some people love it. What hits have you had in the past that you think that, you've got into a position where it was a bad idea at the time, and in that moment in time, it's dangerous,
well, I have been arrested before, so for like smoking weed or something stupid like that, and I think I've been to the police station a couple of times. I can't remember the second time, but that's just, things you do when you're a kid, But there's also once I actually ran across the road and I was with my brother, and there was this car going really fast, and I wasn't making. I ran across the road and the car actually skimmed my foot. And that was like, I jumped out. Do you know what I mean? I just thought I had enough time and I just skimmed it. It's actually bruised my foot. So that was one time when I nearly died.
I think one thing we can think about is dual tasking. So sometimes when we're doing one thing, we're not always concentrating on the others. I fell down a ravine in Nepal. So I was talking to a Sherpa, and I was so interested in them, I didn't realise that I was on the edge of a ravine, fell down and tumbled down and broke a hand in the process of doing so. And I should have been concentrating on one thing. But it's difficult when you're interested in stuff. I think do you know what I mean? It's that when you're having a conversation with somebody or you're doing several things at once, there is a risk as well. We know that people who are neurodivergent have high rates of accidents. There's a good reason for that. Sometimes when we're in the moment, we don't think of the implications. I've ended up in hospital a couple of times because of that.
I've had stitches above my eye. I've had stitches in my head several times. I've had them across my tongue. I've had them across my lip. I've broken my arm. I've broken several of my fingers. My neck sometimes, my foot. I could go on. Honestly, I just make really, really bad decisions in situations that happen. All across my hand. I grabbed the wrong end of a knife and tried to pull it off somebody. Obviously, you can imagine what happened there. like there's some that are just probably too much to say on LinkedIn for the.
Yes, I think we're both avoiding some of our events, aren't we?
But I think this is the thing, isn't it? And actually, not all of them are in those types of situations. Sometimes they're in typical normal situations, right, where you just like where you're walking or where you're in a office environment and you're so excited and not looking that you trip over the chin. The amount of drinks I've knocked over are next to laptops and stuff, honestly.
I've done that. I saw my laptop fizzle because I knocked over. I'm so excited. I knocked over coffee over my laptop and saw it fizzling in front of me. It was catastrophic. It really was. Lucy, you're doing horse riding, and I think Theo mentioned about equine therapy, and I've seen it, and I've worked with equine therapists, and I think that some of the work they do helping young people to engage, learn, communicate can be amazingly successful, can't it?
Yeah, I think there's something. Yeah, I think there's something about horses because they live in herds, right? And they get very anxious when they're away from their herd, and when they're with their herd, it regulates their heartbeat, and they can sense the other heartbeats. I think there's something about horses and humans and the heartbeats because they can sense when your heartbeat's raised, and like we can with them when they're scared or we're scared. Do you see what I mean? There's energy between humans and horses, and they just.
You've got to be respectful. You've got to be and they're very respectful, haven't you, of each other? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't mistreat a horse, can you?
No, absolutely not. No, because they remember, and they can have trauma. Horses can. They can remember things and have their kind of quirks and stuff like that. It's like my horse reminds me. He's like very autistic and he's very ADHD as well.
You got a neurodivergent horse, have you?
Absolutely, he's like very different, my horse, and a lot of people don't understand him, and they kind of they think I'm not treating him right or it's my fault, and it's just like an adult with an autistic child. The way that I've fallen out with people over him, and like he's like really temperamental, but yeah, he's a Welsh horse, and Welsh horses are like that. It sounds racist, doesn't it? Welsh, he's Welsh, he's like a bit nuts.
You be careful. You be careful in this room.
Yeah.
I was in Wales the week before last on holiday, and I had one horse because me and Beth and my daughter always go up and seek out horses where we see them. And then where we were staying, there was some horses in the field, and they came over, and one of them came up eye to eye, lovely big horse. And I was me and Beth, and I'm literally, it was like eye to looking me right in the eye, really lovely. And so we spent some time with that horse. We then went to a National Trust property that had 2 horses. This horse came up, and same experience, we're enjoying it. And next thing, it bit me. and then when it started standing on the other horse's foot, his personality was fantastic. But I think it says something that they were definitely well.
He thought you had food, though. It probably wasn't personal. He probably thought you had food and just tried to get. Yeah.
But why was he stamping on the foot of the other? It was getting
him out of the way because he wants the food.
But why shouldn't horses be variable like people? We've got people who stand on each other, aren't they? And behave badly.
You get
really do. So what do you do? It sounds like you've really sorted out in the last few years about how to regulate your own emotions and to have a better framing of the day and take a rest. I am in awe of you setting aside time to take a rest every day. Because I think I know what you should do, but I don't always practice it.
Yeah, the thing is though, I don't probably have as much work on as you, Amanda. I work quite well. I probably do a full-time job, but I do make sure that I don't take too much on. And you run your own company, so you probably, unless you delegate, it's a lot of work, isn't it? And it's difficult to juggle all the work and everything, the horse, and there's so much going on. Sometimes I feel really overwhelmed and I can't handle it. But at the moment, I don't feel too bad actually, because I got really on top of things this week, and I've just been trying to get on top of things, and that's quite unusual for me. Usually I'm stressed and things are coming together more for me at the moment. Like I'm updating the Futures ND brand and getting the website done and
Great.
designing some more products, workshops, so that I can, and I also want to look for more creative work. So, and I'm getting a bit better with, I've got a designer that I work with, a VA, and I'm just starting to think about how to sort of plan my business so it works, so it's easy, so it's less stress and less work, you know. However, and I'll do less work if it means, if I'd have to, if it was getting too stressful, but it's always hard to say no. But I said no for the first time on LinkedIn actually the other day. Somebody asked me if I could pick my brains, and I'm just like, if I answered every call like that, I wouldn't have no time. And that's one of the things I really cut down on, just chatting to people, because
I think that's a big thing. And
it's exhausting.
Tons of people now.
I know.
The volume of people.
I can't have more than one meeting a day, and I can't have them every. You know, there's some days I can't have any at all because meetings and talking exhausts me a lot. So I'm quite happy just working on my. That's probably why I work better in a way on my own, because I can just get into my flow and stuff. You know.
Saying no, I think, is really. I think, you know, one of the things you just said. You're asked often to. I mean, I get that every day. You know, literally. Loads of requests saying, can you give me 30 minutes? Can you ask me? Literally emails and everything coming in all the time. I think I'm not very good at saying no, even at my age and stage, you know, because I want to say no, but then I go, yes. when actually I meant to say no.
Or I ask questions. So because I don't want to say no, I'll go on through a series of questions, which actually is worse than saying yes or no. I'm like, leading, well, actually, that sounds interesting, but really I should say no, but I'll ask you another question.
I do the same. I don't want to let people down, I suppose, and I feel like I want to help them. But in actual fact, you're absolutely right, Lucy. And I think, you know, Will saying your time is valuable, and learning to say no, and I'm sorry that I can't, I think it's fine. We need to practice it. We need to get our children to practice that as well. Is respecting your own time and space. You know, I think that is important. It's a skill we need to get in place earlier.
Do you think there's an issue as well around, I don't know whether you just call it high levels of empathy or high levels of care?
Yeah.
When we think about some of the leading climate change activists, when we think of leading neurodiversity activists, actually, there's a lot of
high emotional,
yeah. So that also plays against you in terms of the special interest in dopamine hits, because you keep giving so much, right?
So you have high emotional empathy, lower cognitive empathy. So your planning, organization, and time management is not so good. So you say yes to too much because you want to help people. And I think then if you do that, that drives anxiety. We've done some research about that, looking at cognitive empathy, emotional empathy, and anxiety. And I hear that from people, advocates in the space, who are really empathic and caring, trying to take on and absorb everybody's problems and then become completely overwhelmed themselves. So I think it's something we need to make sure that everybody does respect each other, but also, like you're saying, Lucy, look after yourself, because if you don't look after yourself, you can't help other people.
I'm too easily distracted. If people are messaging me and I have to think, then it takes up too much and I just can't do anything else. I can't. It's just really hard because I need to get into my flow and have a free day to get into whatever I'm doing. You need to build into it and then hyper focus on it and do a good job of it, you know?
Will's just saying it does depend who it is, and he's absolutely right. If I have a friend, if you've got friends, you've got people, allies you're working with, you've got relationships.
Yeah, absolutely right.
It's
just random people that have an idea and they want to pick your brains. They've actually got an idea, a project they're working on, they want to pick your brains. It's like that. It's kind of just blatant. But sometimes, you know, I will help and I mentor people, but it's difficult to get the right balance, isn't it? You know, when to say no.
It is.
But how do you make friends? This is the chat. Some of the ones that I've said yes to, that under that rule I should probably say no to, have ended up becoming.
I agree.
A lot of them become a pain in the backside in terms of they want a lot from you, and it's like, my life is too much for you just to constantly ask. They may be asking politely, they may think it's okay, but
I agree. I agree. You know, I had a random email from somebody once who said, I want to write a book. Remember that, dear?
Yeah.
That's it.
You shouldn't have done it. Yes,
You've inspired someone, Amanda. That's good. That you've inspired them. They might just sometimes people just want to tell you what they're doing, and that's fine as well, though, because it's hard.
So you don't know. That's the trouble. You're right, Theo, because I've had some amazing relationships. Yeah, there we go. Look, I know another book coming around the corner. You're absolutely
that's
right.
why I do events, because I like meeting. It's nice to meet people in person as well, you know. And the thing is, I've met a lot of people online. I'm really good friends with them. I do meet people online and do chat with a lot of people, but it's when it's sort of a bit blatant. But that was only that was. I haven't said no before that, because most of the others, if I just say I haven't got enough time, if they're working on a research project, I get a lot of those. Can you help us with research? And that takes quite a while to read it all and do the questions.
It does.
They're not accessible, those research things, and it's a shame because there's lack of research. But if it was just like this, it's a form. It's going to take you 1 minute, just a few clicks, and that's it.
I do that. I go, can you give it in bullets, and I'll respond quickly.
You know? But it's difficult, isn't it? But I think you should pay people because when I did the Creative Differences Handbook, we paid all the people for the research, like £100 for half an hour or an hour interview. Do you see what I mean? And it's worth paying people because you're going to get better research. It.
Yeah, no, I agree.
People expect your time, and it's too much, because I just wouldn't do it unless there was a report. I know that's a bit, but then that's probably a lot of people are busy, aren't they? And the people you want to speak to are busy people as well. But that'd be a good. Otherwise, it's biased to the other side that people have time to do it.
I know. No, it's a really hard. Research is never easy. It really isn't. But Lucy, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I'm sitting in a service station, and we've been able to maintain contact for half an hour, so I'm really chuffed about that, because my dopamine was going blah, 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 blah. Next week we're going to the ADHD conference in Liverpool on June 16th.
Are you going there as well? No, shame. But,
I'll do something in like to tip the hat.
A nod to.
A nod to.
I'll find a business card, especially. I'm like going to go, because I'm not speaking, which is actually really good, because then I can enjoy it. Because usually I'm
really well.
When I'm speaking, I'm always anxious, but now I can relax. I'm going with a really good friend, and I'm really excited about meeting people.
Last year was brilliant. It was fantastic. What a great event! It felt like family coming together in that sense. Community, everyone there, really wanting. And from all these areas of society.
It's been going for ages, the ADHD Foundation Conference, hasn't it? Amanda, how many years has it been going for?
We stopped during COVID, but it was going before that. So we've had some amazing conference over the years. Last year was fab in terms of, I think lots of people are going to have some great conversations. I'll report back and let you know if you can't come along. And thank you, Lucy, today. And we really look forward to seeing you in person next week.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, thanks for having me today. And
thank you very much.
I don't even know who came today. I can't see their names, but thanks for coming. Who came?
Yeah, that's a good point. Just as we close off, we've had plenty of people engaging in the conversation. This is a LinkedIn Live every Friday at 10 a.m. But we're also live on YouTube. We're also live on Facebook, and you can catch us on your podcast host of choice at any time you want if you didn't get to hear it all today. So thanks very much. Keep joining us. Big love to the community. We're doing this for you.
Thank you. Bye now. Bye.
See you later.